Hello, Laziali all over the world. Welcome to another episode of Lazio Lounge. Two things before we start talking about the incredible win for Lazio against Empoli in a away game. First, thanks to all our Patreon. Thank you for your support. You are amazing. We recorded last week a special episode just for you. Second, I know there are a lot of Lazio fans coming this Saturday to watch Lazio Juventus. If you are coming, please contact me. If you need help with the tickets, which is incredible hard for a Lazio fan away to get Lazio ticket, contact me. I can help you. And if you're coming, tell me. We can meet Saturday before the game at Ponte Milvio, have something to drink, make jokes about Alasdair McKenzie, and then go to the game all together. So please reach out, and it will be fun to meet all of you at Ponte Milvio before the game. But now, unfortunately, we have to add Alasdair McKenzie to the conversation. Hello, Alasdair, and talk about an unbelievable victory, right? Lazio simply destroyed Empoli in an incredible performance. Close. Well, 1-0 victory. That was enough, right, Alasdair?
Well, first of all, I mean, I know I haven't been invited, but I'm tempted to come to Ponte Milvio on Saturday as well, just to make jokes about whoever this guy is you're talking about.
Whenever you want, you're welcome.
Yeah, I mean, a win's a win is kind of, maybe we can stop the podcast at that point. It was not exactly convincing. Typical early kickoff, wasn't it? I don't know what it is about these 12:30 games, but I swear they're just always these kind of slow, kind of boring and tight games. I don't know. There's something about these matches where I just always find they're a bad spectacle. But, you know, there's little doubt that Lazio should have won this game more comfortably for so many different reasons. Not only that they're the team at the top end of the table, but that Empoli had about 10 players missing. So it was like an Empoli B team. But on top of that, they were down to 10 men for so much of the game incorrectly. So if you're going to have a referee rant, Vittorio, today, it's in favor of Empoli. So yeah, I don't know. It wasn't great, but at least come away with a win is so important considering everything else that happened over the weekend.
Yeah, let's say it wasn't a slow start for Lazio, right? We scored after 1 minute. This was the first time from after 1998. Vladimir Jugovic scored against Sampdoria, if I'm not wrong, in the first minute. So it was a fast start from Lazio. Before we continue talking about the game, we will talk about what happened this weekend with phone calls, video recording about Fabiani and Lotito. So if you're looking forward to that, keep listening to the podcast. We're going to talk about even that. Alasdair, unbelievable start. You know, Hisai making an assist, Dia scoring at the first chance. I thought, wow, are we going to really win this game so easy peasy? Which never happened for Lazio, right? This is something that annoys me because in the end, it's not that Empoli created that many chances, right? But the Empoli goalkeeper, made one good save on a shot that was pretty much an assist from Guendouzi that nobody touched and was going back in the net. But apart from that, we didn't create that many opportunity, right?
No, I mean, Pedro had that effort in the second half. Went wide after he came on, and then I think beyond that it was probably just that Isaacson shot, which was about the last action of the whole game, where he was 1-on-1 and Vasquez made a good save then. But yeah, I mean, this is the thing. It's I don't know if do you think Lazio almost like scored too early? Did they feel too comfortable? Again, this is kind of what I was saying after the Parma game. This team has no right to feel comfortable or feel complacent in matches against teams lower down the table, because we have seen so much evidence this season that they shouldn't be. But again, I felt like maybe once they took that early lead, they all just relaxed a bit too much. Once the red card happened, probably even more, thinking, yeah, we can kind of cruise through the rest of this match, no problem. In the end, like you said, they're probably right, because I mean, Amandas had a good game, because I thought he did all his basics really well, and when he was called on to make a stop, he did. But you know, God, does this team make life difficult for itself? Both with El Sedusai, that is just so stupid, from one of the most experienced players on your team. And on top of that, you end up starting the match with 3 fullbacks on the pitch and ending the match with no fullbacks on the pitch. So it was just, I don't know, by the time the final half an hour happened, you're like, how have we ended up in this situation?
Alasdair, you're bringing too many arguments. Let's start from one.
Sorry.
I mean, there's so many things to talk about. The first thing I would say, I cannot repeat what I said when Empoli scored because maybe people didn't watch the game. Empoli scored. They equalized at beginning of the second half when they were 1 man down. And I was so pissed off about that because obviously bad luck, Lazio not showing up, etc. Luckily, it was offside, so that was good. But what's your take on Marusic playing right wing instead of Isaacsen? This is the second time this happens. And, you can understand playing a big team, you want to be a little bit conservative. But against Empoli, away, you need to win, and you play Marusic there.
Yeah, it was a surprise. I mean, when I first saw the team, I almost wondered, is this actually what's happening, or has he somehow done a wild card switch to a back 3 or something? And, the game starts and there he is. He is just playing as a winger. And, to begin with, I thought, well, what we have been saying on the podcast recently, and for quite a few months now, is that one of the frustrations we've got with Baroni is that Lazio keep conceding the same goals and keep making the same mistakes defensively, and he's not doing anything about it. So I thought, okay, if I'm going to give Baroni the benefit of the doubt here, maybe he's done something about it. Maybe he's seen that there's a weakness down that side. And in the first half, we did see Marusic a couple of times being good at tracking his runners. And when Empoli did try to do the same thing that everyone else does against Lazio, which is get down the wing and pull it back to try and shoot from the edge of the box, they were finding it quite hard to pull off that move. And I think Marusic probably helped with that. But like you say, the strange thing about it was that it's not been a theme. It's not been something Baroni has been doing much. And if you're going to do it, Empoli seemed like an odd opposition to start doing it against. And then he gave up on it halfway through the match as well. So I don't really know if we can take anything particularly from it other than it's an option he considers.
Yeah, I mean, I think he subbed Marusic because he was a little bit hurt, so he preferred not continue the game, which, it's even true that being 1 man up, you want to finish the game, and so you want to put a offensive mind winger rather than a right back played there. Let's talk about the ref, because I think we both agree that the second red card for Colombo was way too much, right? I think Gigot tricked a little bit the ref, because Gigot went down and simulated that he was hit on his head or higher chest, while the contact was lower than that. And again, I think these rules are stupid because the VR cannot interact if it's the second yellow card. If it was straight red, the VR would have called the ref and said, hey, check it back because it's wrong. But it's still a red card, right? So the VR should have contacted the ref and said, hey, go and check it, because for me, it's a little bit too much for the yellow card. That was a huge mistake. And for the first time, I was there watching the game and said, hey, this is the first time in the season that the ref helped Lazio. It didn't last too long because I thought the penalty on Pedro was obvious, was unbelievable. And I really don't understand, again, why the VR didn't say nothing. That was a clear penalty. So even against Empoli, we didn't have any advantage for the ref. This is my point of view.
Well, it's quite a big advantage from the ref that they lost their striker inside the first half for a yellow card that wasn't a yellow card. No?
Yeah, but then we didn't get awarded the penalty that would have closed the game. And we were already 1-0 up, like the Empoli manager said, right? We were one.
I think he might have fallen into the trap a little bit of this evening up business that people talk about a lot with referees, when he probably realized at a certain point, whether it was halftime, whether it was before then, that he'd made a mistake. And from that point, it's in the back of his mind that, be more lenient to Empoli because you kind of owe them one. I don't know. Perhaps I'm just speculating. Perhaps that kind of thing is going on. But yeah, eventually it was evened up with Husai. The thing is, I mean, probably the most disappointing thing is there was very little difference in gameplay terms between Lazio having 11 men and Lazio having 10 men. I think they really lacked intensity yesterday. And okay, you're 1-0 up against a team in the relegation zone. I can understand why you might feel confident at that point, but you got to kill these games off. You really got to kill these games off, and they must have learned that by now. So it was really disappointing. Not only that the real lack of any chance creation, decent passing moves, chances, opportunities, anything. When you've got a man up, I just think something is lacking in this team at the moment. Whether it's tiredness, whether it's that they've run out of ideas a bit, I'm not sure, but it was pretty clear in that period.
Talking about the red card of Isai, it's funny because I don't know if people saw it, but when Pedro came in, he was playing on the left side in front of Isai. And as soon as he came in, he went to Isai and said, remember, you are on a yellow card. Don't make stupid mistakes. You've been sent off. What was it? 10 minutes later, red card. And you're not talking about the youngster. He's not 18, 19 years old. He's 31 or maybe even 32 already. And I know he complained saying, this is the second foul. Yes, but it's a yellow card, even if it was the first foul you make, right? So really, really stupid, incredible, unbelievable from an experienced player like Isai making the mistake, right?
And he doesn't need to do it because it's not like, I can't remember who it was he pulled down, but it's not like he was through on goal if he got past him. Just let him go and you can recover as a defense. So yeah, it was strange. I mean, it was a funny one because you could tell he'd messed up because the camera was kind of zoomed in on him as he was walking off the pitch. And he seemed to be like every Lazio teammate he went past seemed to be saying to him, like, what are you doing? And he was kind of responding to them all, saying, and
which is crazy. So, he should be apologizing to every Lazio player, right? Sorry, I made a mistake. No. He said, this tells you a lot, though, Alasdair, right? I mean, you make a stupid mistake. You put your team in a bad situation. Instead of complaining or instead of trying to justify or excusing yourself, you're complaining. You're saying, no, it wasn't a red card. Come on, it was red card all the way. No discussion about that.
And now he's also, you might look at it and think, well, in the end, it doesn't matter that much because Lazio still get away with the win. But we've got Juventus on Saturday night, and now he's going to be suspended for that game. We've already got Lazzari injured, Tavares injured. A little bit of talk about whether Tavares can be fit again or not, but considering how his season's going to be surprised. And so that leaves us just with Marasic and Pellegrini as the only natural fullbacks left available. And Pellegrini seemingly can't do 90 minutes because when he did against Parma, he couldn't run by the end, and he got booked and then taken off in this match. So that's a concern. The availability of defenders is looking pretty slim, and in this match we end up in this crazy situation, like I alluded to at the start, where you've got a back four of 4 centre backs with Gila on the right, Prosgaard rocking up, head covered in blood on the left, and I'm not sure he looks like a left back, Vittorio, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't have to do that much, to be honest with you. But I don't know. We've been here from our friend Carsten that he's slow. So being on the left back, I don't think he's his best position. There were a lot of question marks because, when he came in, I thought maybe he's pushing Romagnoli on the left or maybe Gigot, I don't know. Or maybe playing with 3-man defenders, right? And playing like Pedro and Isaacsen in midfielders in the 3-5-1, probably. He didn't do anything wrong. But yes, we are playing Saturday against Juventus, and you have Oli Pellegrini and Marusic available. So I don't think, you said it about Tavares. I don't think he's going to be playing, and it would be a huge risk. He can start and then be subbed after 20 minutes. So it would be just wasting a sub. So, but this is a huge problem, right? And it's something we have um, to talk about in the transfer market window. I think Lazio will need to sign 2 or 3 maybe players there, right? Do you think so?
Yeah, and it's not just that the options are now limited in that position. It's that, like we've just said, with the Marisic doubling up selection decision, that is the area of the pitch where we seemingly are weakest defensively because we're conceding so many goals from teams attacking us down the flanks. And look, it's not like Juventus are electric in attack. We've seen that all season long, but they have the ability to cause real problems. I don't want to see, Nico Gonzalez or Kenan Yildiz or whoever running one-on-one with Pellegrini 80 minutes into a match. So, yeah, I think, so to answer the question about the summer, certainly, absolutely, because it's been a bit of an ongoing issue throughout the year. And Tavares, obviously, we've discussed at length, but started hot, not so hot in 2025. Clearly has fitness issues as well. Marisic is getting on a bit. Lazzari, we kind of know what to expect. He also can be a bit fragile. I don't know. The Mario Gila's move to right back has happened a few times this season. I don't mind it actually as a Hail Mary option. I don't think it's his natural position, but I don't think he looks out of place there, to be honest.
Well, he played there with the Real Madrid B team, so he can play that position. Obviously, this means you don't have that many options centrally. Let's not forget Patrick is out for the season, so we have Gigot, Romagnoli, and Proscar there. So we are thin anywhere if Gila slide to the right. So that's a problem. Talking about the table, Alasdair. Juventus, Roma, Lazio, all 63 points. Bologna 62. Next weekend, there is Milan-Bologna on Friday, Lazio-Juve on Saturday, and Monday, if I'm not wrong, Atalanta-Roma. Is that going to be the decisive week?
No, because I think at this point, there's so little between all the teams that, it's certainly a weekend where Lazio can put themselves into a great position because obviously it's an opportunity to play your direct rival at home is something this team should be relishing at this point. They should be really excited about this opportunity rather than fearful of it going wrong. The problem is Roma, and I was working at Roma Fiorentina last night. They're just almost impossible to beat at the moment, and we can still rely on them drawing games. But I think from a Lazio perspective, we'd all hoped by this point they would have dropped more points than they had, because the one reason everyone, including Claudio Ranieri, by the way, was saying that the Champions League was too much was because they had this run of games. They had Juve, Lazio, they've just had Fiorentina, they've been up and played Inter, San Siro, but they're still up there. And they basically are kind of the opposite of Lazio because they are so clinical. When they have a chance, they will take it. They've scored in 19 consecutive games, which is better than anyone else in the league. And then they just defend so well and have a goalkeeper in amazing form that Fiorentina last night, Moise Kean had about 3 1-on-1s with Svilar and couldn't beat him. And now, usually I would have been pretty confident. Atalanta away, Milan at home, those two games, surely they're not going to get 6 points, but I don't think there's any guarantee of that. You can't rely on them dropping points, and that's why this Juve game is even bigger now, because, to have any chance, I think Lazio are probably going to have to win their final 3 games, is how I see it. And that involves beating Juventus and Inter. It's a big task.
Yeah, especially beating Inter away, I think. If they still have chance for the Scudetto title, then They're not gonna give us point easy. I saw Juventus yesterday, and they didn't convince me at all. But I'm more concerned about Lazio rather than Juventus, right? It all depends on us how we perform. On Roma, I have to say, everybody's talking about Roma playing great football. They are not. They are not. They're simply,
Are they?
their defensive is amazing, but that's not great football, right? Without VR, I thought they would have lost pretty much all the game they played so far. So definitely, their goalkeeper is stepping up and making a big impact. But they're not playing great football. Even yesterday against Fiorentina, they had 2 chances and they scored on 1. So, but in football, if you score more goals than your opponent, you win. So that's the biggest issue. And what I'm concerned is that Atalanta and Milan, Atalanta need 1 point, right, to qualify. Milan has nothing to ask from this Serie A. So, on paper, there could be difficult games, but in reality, they could be easier than playing against Lecce, right?
Well, I doubt that, but we just have to hope. I mean, yeah, I don't think there's too many people claiming they're playing amazing football, but what I said about them being almost impossible to beat is hard to argue because it's so difficult to score goals against them. And it's not. This isn't like a freak run. They've gone 19 games like this now. They're clearly completely convinced about the way that they're playing. You would hope that if there's any team in the league who can find a way of carving them open, it might be Atalanta. But obviously they've been a bit hot and cold this season, Atalanta, especially at home, as we found to our advantage. It's an amazing run in this, isn't it? It's just so hard to call. I think Fiorentina might be out of it now. Bologna, I think, are still hanging on in there. They have a tricky run of games as well. But like I say, I do think Juventus at home is a must-win. Like if Lazio fail to win that game, even a draw, I think we're out of it because you have to also remember the head-to-head. If things finish as they are right now, with all of us level on points, Lazio finish the bottom of that pile because it creates the mini table, and then we're behind Juve and Roma in that table. So
I think we need 4 points in the next 2 games, right? Beating Juventus and drawing against Inter. That's the minimum.
Yeah, minimum. But I honestly think to finish 4th, probably 9. Probably 9. Because I just don't think we can rely on Roma dropping points and
plus
or even
Juventus after the Lazio game has 2 easy games, so they're probably going to make 6 points after that. So it's going to be difficult.
So one thing at a time, because obviously Inter away is not going to be simple, and even if they do reach the Champions League final, or if they don't, it doesn't really matter. That's going to be further in the distance by that point. So we're not catching them at a good time in the way that we would have if we just played them this weekend, for example, when they changed 10 players. So I think the only thing we can really hope for there is that that Inter kind of messed things up this weekend. And if they find themselves 6 points behind by the time we play them, it's pretty much done. But yeah, I mean, it's an amazing end to this season because the title race and the top 4 races, all these head-to-heads happening, and there's just so little between all these teams.
I think the title race, it's, don't want to say decided, but very close, right? Inter is...
The team with all the Scottish players comes out on top. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, obviously. Alasdair, after Empoli Lazio, Fabiani went to the press conference of Baroni, and he pretty much said that he thinks today is a conspiracy against Lazio for what happened in the last 2 days. A Lazio fan called Lotito and recorded the interview, this phone call with Lotito saying that Noslin is a terrible player and Baroni wanted him, that Cianau is an idiot, and so on. And then
footballers don't have brains.
Yeah, and then the Bernabé film, Fabiani saying that there's an issue inside Formello, etc. And so Fabiani thinks there's someone behind this. Do you agree on what Fabiani said?
Yeah, probably not. I'm not quite as keen to jump on the conspiracy theories as a lot of people seem to be, but I mean, Bernabe the Falconer is clearly, I don't know, just something wrong with him, because it's just such a bizarre situation, the whole thing, and still living at the club's training ground despite having been fired, and the whole penile implant thing. That, I mean, it's just this crazy story that has been going on for months now. They're clearly sick of him. The relationship has clearly completely broken down. So he's just taking shots wherever he can. I mean, it's kind of weird what he's been saying now, and really have to hope it's just him lashing out, and he's not got any grounds for anything. But yeah, I don't think this really has to be that destabilizing, though. I mean, there obviously been the clubs responded with these statements, and like you say, Fabiani went to the press conference because he said he felt like they had to have a club representative to talk today and all this. But I don't know how important this stuff really is, in terms of how it's actually going to affect the team or anything. Is it? I mean, it's something people talk about and discuss outside of the club, but is it really that destabilizing?
I think it's just bad publicity for the club and the owner. But I mean, I think Bernabe is trying to attack Lotito and Fabiani because he thinks, if I put them in a dangerous situation, they're gonna bring me back, and which is completely wrong. I mean, knowing a little bit Lotito, it's not attacking him that you're gonna convince to bring you back. That's exactly the opposite. The other thing I want to say is, you are the owner of Lazio. You are a senator. Someone calls you and you don't know who he is, and you talk to this guy saying stupid things. I mean, this is crazy. Let's be honest. If someone calls you and you don't know who he is, you hang up, right? Or you don't say nothing big.
Yeah. I don't even really answer numbers I don't know. I mean, the also really early in that interview, one of the first things I think he says is like, "What do you do for a job?" And the guy's like, "I'm a taxi driver." Surely at that point, just instead of then going on to make this comparison between taxi drivers and football club owners or whatever, just why continue the conversation if it's a stranger and a random taxi driver who's wanting to ask you questions about Lazio? I mean, obviously it's not right for anybody to be recording private conversations and so on, but I think if you're in that kind of position of responsibility, then you've got to be a bit smarter about what you're running around saying, don't you?
I think there's not a conspiracy theory. There's nobody behind this. It's simply that Lotito in general, his communication is awful. And it's incredible that in 21 years as Lazio president, he didn't learn to improve this thing. Someone calls you who's not a journalist, you hang up, right? And you don't say nothing like that. You, at least if it's a Lazio fan, you've been very careful, saying only nice things, etc. But why do you answer? That's really crazy. That's really nuts. And again, I cannot believe that Bernabe is still in Formello. I mean, what happened? How long did it pass? 2 months since he's got fired, and he's still in Formello. I cannot believe it. There's something wrong in the club. That's terrible. That's terrible because, as I said always in my Italian YouTube channel, Lazio is a stock company, right? It's in the Borsa di Milano. It's run like it's a restaurant outside Rome, a family restaurant. That's terrible. That's terrible. I mean, we don't have a PR. We don't have no structure. It's incredible to think about it, right? Just to give an example to people, Man United 2 months ago fired like 200 employees. In the last balance sheet of Lazio has 10 employees in total. Can you spot the difference?
Yeah.
It's huge. I know that Manchester United is probably one of the biggest clubs in the world, but 200 fired, this means that they have much more than 200, right? Lazio just have 10.
this kind of comes back a bit to one of the topics we discussed on the Q&A, which is that, we talked a bit about Lotito there, and also this question of foreign owners versus Lotito and what people's preferences are and so on. And I think this is kind of one of the reasons that people can be frustrated by it and hark after foreign ownership in Rome, because like you say, it does sometimes feel like the club is being run like this family restaurant. I quite like that comparison, rather than being taken seriously as, this international sports brand, which it ultimately should be treated as. And I think that again, all of this is another example of why people feel frustrated about that management style.
And the thing is, with Cagnotti, that was an Italian owner, we were in the future back in the days. And now with Lotito, it's like we are back in the past, right? Back in the 80s. And with Cagnotti, we were in the future. So it's not depending on the Italian owner or not. It's depending on your vision, on your entrepreneur experience, I think. Lotito needs to hire someone to take the club to the next level, which is not happening. Stop answering the calls if it's not a journalist, if it's not someone important. This is so bad. And again, it puts Lazio in an embarrassing light. I mean, I think every other fan of all the other clubs were laughing about us in this weekend, thinking about what Bernabé and Lotito did, right? Now, just to add some info, the taxi driver will be sued, because in Italy you cannot record a conversation without the authorization of the one speaking. Same thing with Bernabé. But still, we had terrible publicity, and this is like scoring an own goal in the derby, right?
I think the only thing is there are so many things that just pop up time and again, whether it's with Lotito or within the club or whatever, the Bernabé story that's been going on, that I think it will blow over quite fast, simply because this kind of stuff seems to happen regularly enough. You know what I mean? That's part of the reason I feel like it's not going to be all that destabilizing, is because it's almost like people have come to expect that weird stuff happens every now and then, and so you just kind of get used to it.
So basically, we are used to it, so it won't affect us. I don't think it's going to affect the
Well,
player.
I don't think it. Yeah, I'm not sure it'll be a talking point from now until the end of the season. I think it's been a big talking point in the last few days. But in terms of that word destabilizing, which has come up again and again, I would like to think that it's not genuinely going to destabilize the team and the fan base in a serious way.
Alasdair, watching Empoli Lazio, did you think Lazio made the mistake of getting Belayan instead of Fatsini?
Well, different players. No, I mean, I don't think Fatsini was like running the show. If he'd put on a complete masterclass against us, then maybe. But I mean, I like him. I think he's a talented player. But I didn't end the game feeling full of regret with that. Although it has to be said, we've not seen much from Belayan yet either.
Well, we saw a red card from him, right?
I do think, though, it's time. It's probably time to freshen up the midfield a bit more, because Ravella and Guendouzi have been absolute, monsters this season. But I don't think we're seeing the same level from them at the moment. And it's probably just the season taking its toll, which it has to be, because they've been asked to play central midfield for like 50 games pretty much. But whether it's Vecino, Delibashiro, Belayan, whatever, I feel like maybe they might just need a bit more help.
I ask you about Fatsini because I think he would be perfect for Baroni's scheme, because he's a trequartista, but yesterday played central midfielder. That it's the jolly we need. Delibashiro struggled playing in midfield. Guendouzi, Rovella, Vecino struggle to play trequartista. So, with Fatsini, you can have a player that can play in both positions. I thought yesterday he played, obviously, he wasn't amazing, and, it's hard to be unbelievable playing that team, but he showed that he can play good even in that position. So, watching Belayan, who doesn't come in even when Roel and Guendouzi probably played the worst game they played in the last couple of months or so. I thought yesterday they were bad. This tells you a lot. Dele Bashiru is gone. He's disappeared. In the last 3 games, he hasn't played a single minute. And I don't know what happened. I mean, he's fit. It's not that he's injured. He's not coming in anymore.
Yeah, that is a bit surprising, to be honest, especially given, like I said, it feels like everyone's tiring a little bit and needs some support. And also, Boulaye Dia has obviously been up and down with his form. It was good to see him score yesterday. I mean, we've not really mentioned that yet, but I did read earlier about how decisive he is when he does score. Obviously, last week I was saying the problem with him when he has a bad game, it tends to be a really bad game where he's almost invisible. But on the flip side of that, when he has a good game where he scores, he's scored 9 goals this season and they've resulted in 6 wins and 3 draws. So he never scores in non-important moments, and that's helpful. And I think he deserves credit as well for the goal yesterday. It was a really nice goal, actually. And a very well taken finish as well.
Do you think?
But yeah,
do you think playing with Castellano is helping Dia? Because since Tati has been back on the pitch, Dia starts scoring again. Yesterday, Castellanos didn't play that well, but Dia scored again. So, do you think together they work?
Yeah, clearly. I mean, we saw that the Genoa game was a standout example of that. But even in this match, this goal, I mean, it starts with Castellanos sending that incredible, cross-field volley over to Husai, and Castellanos dropping in to, link up the play and create that space for Dia is what ultimately leads to the goal. So I think they just work. They understand each other better in tandem than Dia did at working as a 9 with a player behind him, or really than anyone else seems to work as a trequartista with Tati, because I think Pedro can make a really big impact as a trequartista, but more through his individual ability than through his linking up with Tati. I don't think he's working with Tati nearly as much as Dia does, but he obviously can still make a big impact.
But if you were Baroni yesterday, would you have used sub Tati or Dia like he did in the second half? Because I thought Tati wasn't playing great while Dia scored. He didn't have that many opportunity afterwards, but probably I would have kept Dia in and put him number 9 and Vecino playing midfield. I mean, it's easy now, right? But
yeah, he looked a bit. I wasn't sure if I don't know. Upset's probably pushing it, but he didn't look that happy about coming off Dia, probably because he had scored. But no, maybe Tati still feels like he needs the game time as well. Yeah, he's still kind of getting fresh back into it, and will be wanting goals. Yeah, I think that's been a little bit promising. Isaacson, I did wonder if it's slightly Baroni benching him to try and maybe get a bit of a reaction from him as well yesterday, or if he thought that bringing Isaacson on later in the game against a tiring defense might help. I thought that he made a decent impact. We saw some flashes from him, but yeah, still feel like we need to see a bit more from him to not end the season feeling like that great run of form was kind of like a short period within the season. I think if he got back to that level at the end, we could feel like he's really kicked on.
You know what, Alasdair? I don't think he played bad, but he missed a huge chance. You have to take that opportunity, right? You're not going to have that many one-on-one against the keeper. And I think we both agree that Isaacson had a good season, but then you go and check the numbers. He had, 4 goals in Serie A? That's not enough, right?
Yeah, and when you look at all the others around him, Tati, Dia, and Zakani and Pedro, all of them are in double figures. And Isaacson has played as much, if not more, football than all of those guys in the same area of the pitch. So yeah, I think finishing is certainly something he needs to improve on.
Yeah, but when you have a good season and you score so little, that's a red flag, I think, right? Especially for Lazio, now that we don't have Ciro Immobile. I mean, if we had Ciro back scoring 30 goals a season, you wouldn't care, right? That would be just a bonus. But with Tati scoring not that many goals, because I think he's 12 goals this season, considering everything, that's not enough for a number 9 who hasn't got that help from the wingers. We didn't talk about Zakani. He had a below average performance yesterday. He made a good tackle in the penalty box where I don't remember which Empoli player had a huge chance. But thinking about the other side, Zakani is really struggling. In the last 2 months, he didn't do pretty much nothing. No assists, no goals, nothing.
Yeah, he had a chance. I think it was in the second half where the ball was kind of played through to him on the left side of the box, but it's just his first touch was just too heavy, and they were able to clear it. And I just thought Zakani, when he's feeling sharper, he doesn't have a touch like that. I mean, it's one thing you can usually rely on him for is a good first touch. So I don't know if he's just feeling the effects of this long season too. I mean, he does still win Lazio a lot of territory and a lot of fouls. I saw he's the most fouled player in Serie A. And he is brilliant at doing that and convincing referees as well that things are fouls. So yeah, I think he's still had a good season, but like Isaacson, probably we would like him to be finishing stronger to feel a bit more upbeat about it. And we're going to need these guys, Juventus and Inter coming up. You need your big players stepping up. And I think more than anything else, more than what all the other teams are doing, like you said yourself, I'm not really bothered about Juventus. The worry is more looking at Lazio. And okay, our away form has been great now. 11 away wins this season, which is fantastic. 3 in a row. But we haven't won at home for a long time in Serie A. And the performances, even in some of those away wins, haven't been particularly convincing. So they got to up it. They got to find another gear somehow for Saturday.
Definitely. As I think we can wrap it up here. Thanks everybody for listening. And again, if you're planning to come to the game, reach out to us so we can meet at Ponte Milvio before the game. And again, thanks to our Patreon. Remember, membership starts at $2 a month. Patreon.com/Lazio Lounge. Take care, guys. We'll be back on next Monday after Lazio Juventus. Ciao.
Ciao, ciao.